Hey everybody, Sergeant Rossbach here. Welcome to the Rossbach Report. Thank you everybody for the support on my first episode. This is episode 2, and I actually had a big chunk of it done Saturday and Sunday, but I decided through the events from Friday that it should be a special episode. And honestly, it's been really tough. I've done a million takes. Uh, this one's just gonna be it. I'm just gonna do it. For those of you that don't know, we had a uh, my goodness. We had an imam last Friday that took his own life. He smuggled in a weapon. I believe it was a pistol. Took his own life outside the superintendent's office. It's such a tragedy on so many different levels. And maybe later on we'll go into why he could have done it. There's an investigation going on really now. I'm actually we're not going to do that. I'm not interested in that right now. We'll find out when they're done with the investigation. I am interested in his mindset on why that was the only way he had out. And he might be a specific case, but I know it's worse now behind the walls than it was when I was there. And corrections is like the leftovers of the old world. All the old things that society's been trying to get out of us are still left in corrections. Uh, Even with mental health, um, we don't talk about it. You don't. First of all, everybody in corrections has guns and they don't want to lose their guns. But I hate to say good things about the state, but the state has programs, SISM and EAP. I made this. Took me half the day. I hate AI. I do. I love AI, but it's very hard to work with. And I think most officers know, but it doesn't hurt to reiterate. I know in Auburn, the guys that were working it were very serious about it when I was a sergeant, and I trust them, the guys that were running it. So even if you don't want to get into uh, details on your problem, talk to EAP. Use SISM. Um, SISM is critical incident. Oh, what is it? System management. I forgot. Anyways, use SISM or EAP. They're there for you. SISM. I just looked it up. All right, critical incident stress management, and we have critical incidents all the time. And if you weren't involved in one, you saw one. And again, we don't like to talk about it because docs is still old school, and guys don't share their emotions. And there's other ways out. And people say, "Oh, you make some money, you can leave." The money, and when they threw money at the problem, in my opinion, that actually exacerbates the mental health problem because now you're more locked in. You'd leave, but where are you going to go make 130 grand a year, 150 grand a year with no college education? And even with a college education, where are you going to go? Where are you going to go be done working in 25 years? When I started in corrections, I was 36 years old. It was the only way I was going to stop working before I died. Now I don't know what I'm going to do. Um, but the money and those benefits, they also lock you in. I can deal with it. I'll just deal with it. It's and when you have a family, like one of the reasons that I was able to not go back in was because I didn't have a wife and kids at home. I didn't have a house that was gonna um I was gonna lose. That was already gone in the divorce. My kids are all grown, you know. My wife, my new wife that was coming over at the time, she doesn't mind being poor. She doesn't want me to do a job that I didn't want to do. So I didn't have the other people counting on me like a lot of these other guys do. And they had to come back because if they didn't go back, they'd be losing their house right now. If they didn't go back, their kids, would be going hungry or would be just, not living the life you want them to. I spent 22 years chasing that dream, giving my kids everything they could possibly want. Um, it's not all it's cracked up to be when you're working in a job you hate. Ironically, as I started to like the job, I lost it, but that's a different story. My point is, people need to communicate their mental health. And docs does have I believe they have stress comp now, and everyone's afraid to use that too because you don't want to get wrapped up in stress comp. You don't want them to come take your guns. But there are other ways, and there are ways to deal with it without losing your guns. Um, and I would just say reach out to them if you're having a problem. Reach out to me if you have a problem. I'm not gonna be able to counsel you, but I'll listen to you and I'll tell you who you can go to. I'll call the person at your jail and find out who your CISM is. I'll find out from people I know because I'm starting to learn a few people here and there. Who you can rely on. Um, I'll listen. That's the very least I can do is listen. And the most important thing is that you communicate and you reach out before it gets to the level that it got with the imam. And on that note, I would like to say that the imam has got to be one of the hardest jobs in prison, emotionally. One of the things that an imam has to do is he has to have empathy. And I've talked about this before. I don't believe officers should have empathy. I believe officers should be professional. This whole movement where the state wants you to be a counselor and an officer, it doesn't work. It's not a security. Empathy's not for security. Professionalism, yes. Do I want them to be violent? Do I want them to be emotional? Absolutely not. That's one of our biggest enemies in prison is our emotions. You're dealing with a lot of animals, and don't don't get all upset. Prison baby mamas and family and stuff. They're not all animals, but a lot of them are, and a lot of them are literally the worst of the worst. The kind of animals that prey on empathy, the kind of animals that prey on kindness. That was one of the things I learned quick, and I never actually learned probably as good as I should have. One of the reasons I got my thumbnail bit off was because I was too nice. Because I should have been punching when I was using holds, and if I would have led with punches instead of holds, I would not have gone through a year of regrowing my fingernail. Now, I'm a little different. Kind of makes work interesting for me. I'm not mad about it. But I did learn a lesson after 15 years. All the times I was cocky and big and used body holds and got in close on the inmate, I was just one step away from getting my thumbnail bit off. Um, but that, and that there's, you want to know, I actually, for me, one of the biggest things that caused me like a PTSD. When I first got to be sergeant, I was sitting outside Easy Blocker in the yard and just a regular chow run. And I'm waiting because, this is post halt. So shit's getting crazy. And this is when they start fist fighting all the time because you can't lock them up for fist fighting because of halt. Uh, you can, they get in a fight at breakfast. They go back in, they switch sides of the company because they're in the mental health unit and they come back downstairs and fight at lunch. So we're waiting for for the fight. Usually they break up, not always. We're waiting, and I see this dude come out, and I'm just being a lazy cop watching, and he's got a look on him, and he's looking, he mad. I'm like, hey man, you okay? And he just whop, turns out punches me, runs around, charges me, yoke him, throw him on the ground, use force. We're not supposed to talk about that, but yeah, it was all on camera and it was all legit. He punched me first. I didn't say two words. I said, hey man, you all right? He punches me in the face to throw him on the ground. Didn't know this guy from Adam. Never seen this guy. And a lot of guys are gonna say I'm faking, but I'm just as like this on the inside, pretty much. Um, I'm definitely not aggressive, and I don't have very many enemies that I know of. But yeah, he come at me, started swinging, and he didn't hit me bad, but he knocked me a couple times. And for a solid year after that, I had a real heat. Just if inmate got too close, I would like because for 15 years or 14, 13 years at the time, um, I always saw it coming. You can see and I did see him coming. I saw it, but I sure as hell wasn't expecting to get punched in the face. I was just watching. Oh, he looks angry. Thump. You know, that took a little bit of my confidence out because one of the things the reason I was able to go through corrections with a lot of confidence was my size, but also I read people and I'm calm. I don't get all excited. I don't go blah, 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 mostly. Um, and usually you see the situation coming up. You see a dude coming with a look on his face, so you know how to act when you see him. One of the problems I had with old school corrections was officers were very terse and very da, 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 and there's times you're like, oh shit, that's attitude is not going to work. We're going to be in this force that we didn't need to be in. Um, and that's when I say But I look back at that and I think that's a lot of mental health. It's some for some guys it's dealing with fear, for some guys it's dealing with power. But I can tell you I had, besides the PTSD that every officer gets, like when we go to Walmart and they go, oh, code whatever 87 on aisle 5, and you just hear code and you start looking around and the hair stands up, or you sit in the back of the restaurant and you got to be able to see the restaurant. You don't like people at your back. That's a military police. That's a big, um, I believe it is a type of PTSD. But I can tell you right now, it took a solid year where I was not jumpy, but very hyper aware. When inmate got near me, didn't matter if he looked cool, didn't matter if he looked quiet, didn't matter if he was big, didn't matter if he was small. I was super careful, and it brought a level of stress to me. Like you could just feel the trigger, and I'd be like, "Phew." But you still got to do your job, and you still got to go in. And I didn't tell anybody. I just held it in there. Although I talk a lot, it's very possible I told somebody. But in general, I didn't. I sure as hell didn't talk to anybody professional about it. I didn't work through it. I just brought it home and stuffed it in and held it. And those are small things. A lot of officers they'll get stuff like that when they do the old dropping gas in the yard and 25-man fight. That stresses a lot of people out, and it sticks with you. And I don't believe most of them talk about it. But the stuff is there. SISM's there, EAP's there, stress comp is there. Um, And now I know it's worse because at least we had a pretend union back in the day. We thought they might have done something, even though, funny little story, the union always told us that the state can do whatever it wants. Well, no, man, state can't do whatever it wants. We're a freaking union. And in the end, it turned out the state can do whatever it wants. And it doesn't matter. So it just wears you down. And whoever can afford to get a lawyer, maybe they can sue in the future, but it'll be years and years, and these assholes will be out or they'll be on to something different. So the guys that did all the shit to us, they're going to be gone. We're not going to be able to sue them personally. The state will pay the money. They don't care, you know. And I don't even want to talk about that. But yeah, so um, extremely important. Use the tools they give you, and there's other tools. Use your family, use your friends. It's hard. Correction officers like the military, is like the police, probably like firefighters. Um, I don't know a lot about firefighting. I've gained a lot of respect for them over my life. When I was a kid, I didn't, have a lot of respect for firefighters, but after they come save your butt a couple times or take your kid and check her out, make sure she's okay. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff we just don't talk about. And when we talk about it with our brothers and sisters, we talk about it, we tend to add some bravado on. It's like, nah, man, dude. Now whenever they walk around, da 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 da. You know what I did find out though? When I went through my divorce, that is the one place correction officers um, go and see counselors and will reach out of their comfort zone. Guys that I didn't really know that well, guys that had been busting my balls for a decade, when I got my divorce, came up to me and were like, "Hey, Rossbach, I know you're going through it. This is what I did. If you need anything, come to me." And I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many guards who said about 10 words to me over 10 years came to me when I was in the dark depression of divorce and 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 picked me up. It was really pretty amazing time. At work, it was kind of, I don't know, it really made work a lot better. But anyways, uh, I can tell you something. Another mental health issue that I had during the strike, I was dealing. My father was very sick, and uh, we ran out of insurance. We couldn't get him out of the hospital because we didn't have the right um, what we needed to take care of him at home because he was full care. And then I lost my job, and it was my responsibility to take care of Dad. And I lost my job, my future, all my money. Like, it was a very dark time for me. I actually went and got help. I went to the doctor. I actually got some meds to calm me down. And it was a long summer. I wasn't even out of my depression when I got married. I got married the second time. A beautiful wife, brought over from the Philippines. That was stressful in itself. We did the whole 90-day fiance, which was very exciting, but also very stressful. But when we got married, I was depressed. And My family was picking on me. They're like, oh, Dennis didn't do invitations. Dennis didn't plan, and I didn't have the guts to tell them I couldn't do anything. I was just deep depression. I didn't think the state could do shit like that to you. I thought there were rules. I thought there were laws. I thought I had a future, and they pulled it all out from under me. But that being said, minus financial pressures, I've been healing for 6, 7, 8 months, whatever it is. And I didn't realize till 6 or 7 months out the weight that I carried. And this is something that we hear on everybody that's out. We've always known it with retirees, but guys that are now making half the pay they used to make and being like, I'll never go back. Never go back. Don't care how many guys that weren't fired that were resigned. They don't talk about that number. What kind of mental pressure do you have for thousands of guys to resign and leave? We're getting them on the internet constantly. I quit. It's too stressful. I've just put my 2 weeks notice. People that made it through the strike, people that made it through the 2.5, and they still can't, with all the money and all the efforts they're putting in, they still can't hire them fast enough. And the reason they can't hire them fast enough is the mental. Dude, I could take a big beating for 130 grand a year, 150 grand a year. I can take a mental beating for that. And a lot of people can, but they're still leaving. They're still leaving, and it's all because of the mental aspect of the job. So what does that tell you about the guys that are still in there pulling it out, still in there fighting out? Only now they don't have a union. Now it's just if you're buddy, no vacation. Sure, maybe you're not doing as many 24-hour shifts as you were before, but you're still working a ton of hours and you're not getting any vacation, and they're not helping. They're not like, all right, they come out and they put a thing out for Sullivan saying those officers did what they were supposed to do. But Marticello should be screaming, these are my guys. They're my guys. And if you don't like the way we train them, that's one thing, but don't come after my. He doesn't. He hates us. He wants us gone. Besides the fact that he hasn't changed it, that when they do change the training, they put in things like empathy, where they say, "Hey, how's your dad? How's your mom? Her mom's in the hospital." That's that's what I wanted to get to. So it's kind of hard because I've done so many damn takes today. This is it. I don't care how it even ends. But one of the things that I do want to touch on is the job of a imam in the prison system. In my opinion, I mean, we're going to start out with, and we have to be honest about it. There's more Christians that are correction officers and more Muslims that are inmates, and you're either there's a higher percentage chance you're going to be a Christian or not like religion in general. So as an imam coming in, you're already dealing with that natural friction there. You're also dealing with the natural friction of security versus civilian. And specifically an imam civilian is even more difficult because an imam has to have empathy and has to make a spiritual connection with all the inmates. And he's making a spiritual connection with demons, basically. Not all of them. Not all inmates are bad. Not all incarcerated individuals are bad. Um, I always say this, and I always try it because I like to use our terminology, inmates. I don't like to use incarcerated individuals because it's stupid. Um, it's just more liberal, blah blah nonsense, and I don't think it's the solution. And now I'm doing my own podcast, so I don't have to. But I don't want you to think that I think all inmates are bad, that I think all inmates should be shit on. I agree with a lot of the liberal ideals. I want to see them have a decent prison life. I don't want to see punish, 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 especially because you're getting guys mixed in. As we have less prisons, you're getting guys mixed in with lesser sentences. I don't, I I want to see professionalism in prison. I don't care if you're gang member or a rapist or whatever. I don't want to know what you did wrong. You get what you're supposed to get. You don't get what you're not supposed to get. I keep you safe and I stay professional. That's my goal. And one of the reasons that I believe in being professional, I believe in controlling your emotions, is the mental health aspect. I had a lot of shit in my correctional career because I was soft. Um, but I didn't have mental health problems. Um, I had a little PTSD, but nothing too bad. Last couple of years were a little different, but that's another story. Um, and I feel like that's one of the things that you can help with mental health is by learning to control your emotions and keeping a professional attitude. But anyways, back to the imam. So the imam has to be empathetic and connect spiritually with inmates. And then he has to balance that with security because for security staff, civilians are automatically suspect because you're dealing with them. You're not security. Quite often, civilians are nicer, and that's a big red flag for security. And I'm good with that. It needs to be security staff needs to be about security, not about um, emotion. Again, and I've said it before. I've said it today. The aggression and violence you're trying to avoid can be curtailed with professionalism. And a lot of your mental health problems can be curtailed with professionalism. You don't really need a union if everybody's being professional. You get this much time, you get that bid. But we're not being professional, are we? That we're So anyways, the imam has to he's gonna be bumping heads with security constantly. And you see, we had a great imam. I had a lot of respect for him. For the record, I have Muslim family. I respect the religion. I respect the culture. I brought my daughter over to Jordan for 10 days so she could see the culture when she was 15 or 14. I lived over there for a month when I was a kid. And hey, love my uncle is one of the most respected men in my life, and from even as a childhood. And I have family, so I respect the religion itself, even if I don't agree with it. And I got along great with our imam, but I remember what he's hearing dudes talk mad shit about him because every time he does something good for the inmates, that's bad for security. And guys talk, prison's terrible. And I'm not saying that has anything to do with the imam that committed suicide at Marcy, but uh, I have no clue what happened there, and I'm not gonna guess. We'll see what happens when the investigations. There's a million things it could be, you know, and I just feel really sorry for his family. It is one of the hardest jobs. So let's that's I think we've covered that pretty much to the best of my ability. So I made this thing break the silence, use SISM or EAP. I'm not good at this, but that was the best I could come up with. So if you know anyone that's having problems, tell them to reach out. If they can't reach out to their own guys, tell them to reach out to family. One of the things that got me through, I went through a deep depression, but I didn't get suicidal, was because I have a really strong family. I have great brothers and sisters and cousins and parents. I'm just extremely lucky. I have the same best friends from high school and childhood, and I still talk to them today. So I have a very strong support staff, a lot of local people, close friends from even prison that when I'm down, they reach out to me. And I try to do the same, and that's kind of what I'm doing here. If you feel you need to call and get talk to me, I'm not not probably not the person you want to call. I'm not a counselor, but I'll listen, and I'll try and tell you where you can go. Um, but if you're to the point that the imam was, talk to somebody. There is a way out somewhere. That's not the answer. I don't know what you talk about. I may think maybe that is episode 2. Maybe we'll end it there for today, and it's more like episode 1.5 because episode 2 was supposed to be an extension of episode 1. But it's extremely difficult, by the way. It's a hard topic to talk about, and I hope I covered it well. I hope I helped somebody. And if you have a problem, reach out to someone you love, someone you trust. Talking about it is the most important thing you can do. So, oh, happy Veterans Day! I missed the Veterans Day. Oh, I got busy yesterday. It got cold, and I went down to work on my camp. And oh, what are the stats? I forgot to look up the stats. I think it's one in every three correction officers is a veteran. Um, Give me 1 second here. I got a message from somebody. I gotta get so many damn messages. Thank you, Cheryl. And it was, oh, I can't find it. But I believe one in every four officers it said. One in every five. That there's a lot of correction officers that are veterans. And of course, we all mess each other. Happy Veterans Day. And remember that when you're talking about correction officers, when you're shitting them down, you're disrespecting them. A good percentage of us are veterans, and a good percent, not me, I did not see combat, but a good percent of us are combat veterans that have really been over there and seen the worst. And now they're here dealing with some of the worst you can deal with. So, thank you to our veterans. I hope you had a great Veterans Day. I love this country. I want to help. One of the reasons I'm doing this podcast, I want to try and help get on the right path. Um, and I love you all. Peace. Have a great day. I think I just spit on the camera.